Hi there, my name is Richard Cachardo, and I'm really excited to be speaking with you today. I would like to first thank you for taking the time to listen to what I'm going to share with you. Now, in today's lesson, we will speak about how and why you should study business analytics, and then discuss some tips on how you can build a successful application. I'll be sharing with you some insights and lessons that I have gained from my professional experience and my education. Now, let's move into the first part of our presentation. Why study business analytics? Well, in today's world, data rules us all. Our shopping habits, our travel plans, our entertainment experience, our education, the data that we generate when we interact on social media, all of these things create enormous amounts of information that need to be processed by computers. Since the late 1990s, companies have been working and using all of this data in order to improve their margins and operational efficiency. And given the enormous amount of data that is being generated, then we have come up with a new term for it, which is big data. And the reason is that the conventional databases tools are not sufficient in order to handle this. So we have needed to create a whole new set of tools, like Hadoop, for instance, in order to deal with them. This is also required that people who have the computational skills and the training in analytical tools in order to deal with big data then have created a new profession altogether called data science. The data scientist is the sexiest job of the 21st century, according to the Harvard Business Review. This was an article published in 2012 that was extremely popular in terms of really communicating to the world how data scientists and the world of data science was becoming extremely important. According to forecasts of the World Economic Forum, by 2020, data analysts will be in high demand in companies around the world. The LinkedIn Workplace report maintains that in the United States, demand for these professional figures have increased sixfold over the last 5 years, and the data analyst will continue to be one of the most sought after profiles over the next 5 years. This is even confirmed also by IBM, who has said that by 2020, 2.7 million new jobs for data scientists and analytics people is going to be opening all around the world. So let's talk a little bit more about what are the things that a person who studied data science and particularly business analytics does. So the first thing I want to tell you is that it extracts, communicates meaningful information, and gives knowledge and insights from data that can be structured or unstructured. What I mean by structured is data that it's like completely organized. For instance, like if you have a text message, it can tell you what are the different words, what is the time of the text message, and as such, it is structured. Now, if you look at a photo, it's significantly less structured, and as such, they need to learn how to handle all of this data and kind of really understand it in a way that a computer can deal with it and also can generate business value. So, in 2013, McKinsey said, big data promises big things, but only if organizations have the right people in place who know what to do with this. So I want you to think of the business analyst as a field that focuses on how to use the data and the models to create better business decisions. Data sciences uses the same tools, but the set of questions that you answer might be different. So how does this actually work? First thing is the business leaders and the different managers or the research department communicate what they're looking for. What is the goal of the research that you want to do? What is the question that you're looking to answer? Afterwards, you have to move into getting the data, and from here you can identify different sources, see if it's structured or not structured, and see how you're going to deal with it and make it clean and fit it for being for an actual algorithm or computer model. So after that, you have to explore the data, right? And here you start swimming into this data to really understand what it is that it's telling you. When you're able to really structure and understand large quantities of formless data, and here you're taking, for instance, thousands of variables with millions of rows, and really understanding what's the relationship between all of the different variables. So afterwards, after you understand how variables are related, you're able to model the data. You build a model, you use different types of algorithms, you validate it, and then this is where the part of the data scientist is really important and really focuses on. And then you communicate those business insights into the rest of the team, right? You create a story, you make sure that people who do not have the technical expertise are able to understand what you were doing with those models, and can demonstrate that the results make sense. And here I would like to show you what are the different choices that you have as a person that is studying data scientist or that wants to focus in business analytics particularly. Depending on what's your background and what's your specialty, you can go into data scientist, you can go into the data engineer, or you can go into the business analyst. And let's talk a little bit more about this. Data science is at the intersection of three main areas. The first one is statistics and mathematics. The second one is computer science, and the third one is like subject matter expertise, and in this case, business. Important that because depending on where do you want to focus on, what is your background, you can decide what kind of job and career path you want to choose. If you want to focus on the algorithmic side of things, then you will really understand the theory behind data scientists, the statistics, the models, the mathematics, and understand how experiments are designed and measured. You will create the model that help machines create the distinctions between the different variables, and you have to really understand the type of data that you're dealing with, and how you can best get insight from it. The second one is the data engineer and the engineering side of it. You're really focusing on creating the infrastructure necessary to source and process and store the data. So you're going to be using a lot of programming languages and really understanding what are the best ways to use computing power in order to access and be able to and use this data to reach different business goals. You will also probably implement, as a data engineer, the algorithms that the data scientist is indeed building, and how you can implement them in the whole company at scale. Now, the last part is a business analyst, and this person focuses in the communication of things. The business analyst is the person that really understands what are the business problems and brings all the models that the data scientist is building together with the infrastructure that the engineer has put up in place, and tells business leaders why this is important, why is this something that needs to be done, what is the actual cost, and relate those solutions to the business needs. So to give you a particular example, if you're looking at a data scientist, let's say that a company decides to change the look and feel of their website, the data scientist would create the algorithms necessary to to improve this look and feel. The data engineer will put up the infrastructure in place that would allow the models that the data scientist creates to work. And then the business analyst would come out and say, like, okay, let's make a comparison before we implemented this new website changes and afterwards, and see if this actually had an impact in the business. And after doing this analysis, communicate it with the rest of the company. As a business analyst, you also might take time to talk to users, to interact with a lot of people. You would probably attend a company events as well. Learn how to build things because it's a multidisciplinary, more of a multidisciplinary and people-focused role. Now let's jump into the second part, which is how to select the right school and program for your BA major. When you're choosing the university that you're going to apply for, I would like to invite you to consider the following concepts. Now, the first thing that you need to keep in mind, is that universities in general have a particular student profile that they're aiming to attract. Also, depending on the focus of the classes and what are the kinds of knowledge that they want to communicate, they expect their students to have a particular background, particular set of skills, and as such, you want to keep that into account because you don't want to apply to a program that you're highly likely to not get accepted to. On the other hand, you also want to consider what are your particular preferences, and from there then, by combining both, what is the student profile that the university is aiming to cater to, and then the other part, which is what are your actual preferences, then you choose what is the university and program you will apply to. Now let's go and look into some specifics. First is the skill set. By this, I am referring to what are the actual skills and strengths that your profile shows. This can be a combination of work experience and also what you have gained throughout in your classes, right? So have you become really good in marketing or business concepts and operations, or are you really focused into the mathematics and the statistics, or are you just really into computer science or like programming? So based on what are your strengths, then you can also choose the program that will align with that as well. Second, what is your focus? What exactly are you interested in achieving after you graduate from this program? It's really important that you keep this in mind because you can either decide to go the research route, right, where you will continue to write papers, publishing in prestigious journals, or later on continue to get a PhD. Now, that is one way that your career could go. The other one is the professional path. In here, you are really focused on getting a job, and as such, the program is going to give you all the tools that you need in order to make that happen. The third concept is the number of work experience. Depending on the amount of work experience that you have, there are going to be certain programs that are aimed towards you. There are programs that are aimed for recent undergraduates who have just finished their college and maybe have 1 or 2 internships, and there are other ones that are looking to attract professionals that have over 3 years of experience, for instance. The next concept is the concept of the job industry you want to work on. There are masters in business analytics that are really looking to get you a job in public policy, which is government, or to do more think tank things that are related again to society and how you can handle the economy or the country as a whole. But there are other ones that are more focused, for instance, in consulting and regular businesses, right? So if you want to work in tech, there are certain programs that you should do, or if you want to focus on the software engineering part of it and like become more of a data engineer, then there's certain programs that allow you to focus on the skills. The next one I want to talk about is the background, right? So did you study economics? Did you study business? Did you study science? Did you study sociology? Did you study computer science? Like depending on what is your background, that will also affect what are the programs that you can apply to because of the kind of students that the university is looking to attract. The sixth one is, what is your dream job? And this is really related to what is your focus, but I wanted to highlight it specifically because when you really think about it, the way that you might have a focus, but at the same time, even that focus might not be directly linked to your dream job. So just really think about it. Even do you want to become a data scientist? Because even though you might want to do research during your master's, afterwards you might want to have a different kind of job. So think about if you want to become a data scientist, if you want to be the business analyst in the company, if you want to become the data engineer, or based on the things that we discussed before, what is it that you're really going to and try to achieve in the long term. And then this is just a combination of different other factors that I would like to invite you to look into, like how long is it, if it takes 1 year, 2 years, what is the actual cost as well. Universities in the United States are particularly expensive, so you might want to keep that in mind. The other thing is, what is the number of students in the class, right? Because it's a different thing when you are in an environment with 100 students that the teacher is explaining to you than when you're in a room with 20 people where you're able to talk to everybody and discuss and participate. And the other element that I would like for you to consider is if you want to be in an urban setting and a rural setting. The city where your program is located can definitely affect your quality of life on the one hand, and the other, the kind of professional opportunities that you find, giving to the networking component of doing a master's. Now, I will go ahead and give you an example specifically so that you can really ground this concept. So, we are seeing here 3 programs. The first one is from Carnegie Mellon University that has a Master of Science in Language Technologies. Another one is from Washington University State in St. Louis, which is a Master of Science in Business Analytics, and the North Carolina State University Master of Science in Analytics. Now, all of these are business analytics programs, but all of them have a different focus, and that's what I would like to discuss with you today. The first one, which is in Carnegie Mellon University, this one is it's of 2 years, and it's focused on research. The goal here is to help you, give you all the tools that you need in order to write research papers and publish them in journals, and eventually, if you want, also help you prepare for a PhD. On the other hand, the Washington University in St. Louis program is only 18 years, and the North Carolina 18 months. I'm sorry, and the North Carolina one is 10 months. So there's a complete different time difference. And also in both the Washington University one and the North Carolina State University one, there is a professional focus, which is in strike contracts to the Carnegie Mellon one. And this is important because if you're looking to really get a job, then you should apply for the last 2 ones. These are programs that when you go to their website, they're showing you the employment rates of their alumni. So they're really focused on getting you a job after you graduate. Now, in the Carnegie Mellon program, they are looking for people that have a computer science background because they're going to do a lot of programming, and that's why a lot of the requirements that are part of the application. Now, when you think into the Washington University as well as North Carolina, they want people from a diverse, wide range of backgrounds because they're really going to teach them the tools from a beginner's level, so that if you're really good in business, or you're really good in communication, or you're really good in marketing and operations, you can learn the analytics and how to do the business analytics at that particular point in a way that doesn't require you to have a lot of technical knowledge previously. Now the other part is the amount of experience that you have working. For Carnegie Mellon University, it's okay. They're looking for people who are recent graduates. They don't necessarily need a lot of work experience. That applies also for Washington University. But when you look for the Business Analytics program in North Carolina one, they do want people that have at least 3 years of experience. Obviously, there's other students that have less, but the truth is that if you had the more work experience you have, the higher your chances of getting accepted. And the last part that I want to talk about is the kind of jobs that you could get. If you do a Master of Science in Language Technologies, this also means that you're going to be working in software engineering. This is a really technical job, and you're going to be, remember the slide that we saw before related to the 3 components of algorithms, engineering, and communication? Then this one is really focused on the engineering and the algorithmic side. Now, in the Washington University and North Carolina ones, they're offering different kinds of jobs. For Washington University, it's more focused on consulting and regular big corporations that provide business services. While in North Carolina, they also apply to those, but they're also focused on tech and finance and startups, which is unlike Washington University. So now let's jump to the last part of our presentation, which is how you can build a strength-based application that will enable you to get into the program that you want to. I'm going to present now 10 tips on how to showcase your skills and your strength, and how you can write a really good statement of purpose for it. So the first tip that I want to share with you today, it's regarding how you write stories and not facts. So what this means is when you're explaining things that happened regarding your experiences or any particular event that was important for you, you want to put it in a way that you're not listing everything that happened, like if it was in your resume. You really want to put it in a narrative in a way that really engages with the reader and makes him feel emotionally connected with you and allows him to feel empathy for what you're expressing. Second tip is about customizing your essay. It is of extreme importance that you identify what are the characteristics, just like culture, the methodologies, the values of the university, so that when you apply to it, you cater your problem statement to that. So what this means is that you're going to understand what are the things that they want, and then you're going to, based on that, you're going to highlight different parts of your profile. It's extremely important that you do your homework and that you actually do your research before in order to write this customizable essay per university. And this takes me to the next point, work backwards. So how do you actually customize your essay? What is one of the easiest ways to do this is you're going to go into the university's website and you're going to look into the mission and what are those and the values. And when you have that knowledge, then you can identify what are the skills and the characteristics, right, of the ideal student for the admissions officer. Based on this information, then you can create parallelisms and identify what are the experiences from your profile that reflect those values that the university wants to have. This also applies to the program's description, where you can identify what are the experiences and the background of the student that they're looking for. And based on that, when you write your problem statement and your resume, you want to highlight and give more importance to those particular elements. Next, you want to demonstrate your knowledge and your skills. You want to empathize certain experiences that allow you to show what is the knowledge that you have gained throughout the years and what are your current strengths. And in order to do this, I highly recommend that you use, to a certain extent, a degree of specialized terms so that you can showcase your knowledge of a subject area. You also want to look at it from their perspective. You see, faculty members who read your application are not necessarily experts in your subject area, but they have the knowledge of your field. So, don't go too technical, and we'll talk a little bit more about this in a few minutes, but make sure that you mention some of those elements so that they know that you're indeed knowledgeable about this. And as I mentioned, don't be too technical. So do not overload your application with a lot of technical terms just to impress your committee. Use the terms that you need to tell a specific story and that allow you to emphasize certain skills and experiences that you have gained. Now, it's a really hard balance between not being too technical and being specific. Because everything that you say in your statement of purpose needs to be straight to the point. You want to give content, you want to give strong verbs, and be straightforward without going into being arrogant. So you want to aim for that middle way between being, on the one hand, technical and showcasing the knowledge that you have, and then on the other one, being specific. Now let's go into an actual example. Here I present to you two essays. The first one, it's one student first version of the essay, and the second essay is from another student, but I believe this was his third version of it. Now, in the first one, as you can tell, the student mentions something really general by saying that he wants to study in that particular school, Goizueta, because they have excellent career coaches and have numerous events and conferences. My feedback to him at that particular point is that he has to communicate particularly who are those career coaches and what are the actual events and the conferences that he is referring to. As the other part is regarding the classes that the university provides, and he just mentions that there's some machine learning one and one in deep learning. Now, even though he actually mentions the classes that he's interested in, which is a good point and goes along the fact that what I'm trying to communicate to you about being specific, he's missing the part that makes it relevant to him. And this is where also essay number 2 is extremely good. So not only does the person from essay number 2 um, mentions that the classes that they're interested in, like for instance a social network analytics course, um, the author goes ahead and actually explains why that is relevant to him, and gives specific examples as well, of 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 professors that that student is interested in. The second tip that I want to, the other tip that I want to talk to you about is about how you need to have a clear research or career goal. So one of the most important things that you're going to have to write about is why you want to study in that program, and in order to do that, you're going to have to link it with your long-term future, your long-term goals, and what is the future that you want to build for yourself. So you want to really communicate what is a big issue that you want to tackle, ideally, and then express how exactly the program will empower you to provide a solution for it. This really helps set you apart from other candidates. When you have a really strong idea of what you want to do in 5 to 10 years, what is a particular problem that you're passionate about, and how this program is actually going to enable you to get to that point. My next tip is about portraying yourself indirectly. The first part of this is that you want to decide what is the story that you want to communicate to them, and in it you want to convey your attitude and your personality. So you want to let that come through and not just become like a machine that has achieved a lot of things, and that's your personal statement. Make sure that your personality shines through. Now, when you want to refer to a particular event or a particular experience or a particular skill, you make sure that the examples that you mention there are concrete. Instead of saying, I am really good at Excel, you can say that you helped build a macro for, let's say, a hospital. So here you can see how we started with just a general statement about you, and then the second part you actually went ahead and it showed and portrayed your experience. So here I have another example for you. So in here, this is by the same student, and in the first one, she says that she's really proud of herself because it was the first time that she was applying Python skills into a real problem. The other part that I want to highlight is that she also felt a sense of relief and satisfaction when she presented her findings from some research that she did at Waseda University. Now, the way that I suggested for her to change it, and this is kind of what I want you to do when I mentioned that you should portray your skill sets and yourself in an indirect way, instead of saying that she was really proud, because that doesn't really convey value about who she is to the reader, she changed that and just said that she successfully handled the refined data to our data analyst, right? So she just completely revamped it and said what she did instead of saying what she was proud of. In terms of actually also in the other part where she talks about how she felt relieved and satisfied, instead of talking about her personal feelings, she's talking now about the value that what she had of what she had built. As she says here, that the results of her investigation were worth more consideration by the online retailers. Next tip is that you want to connect your previous experiences with your future studies. So you want to make sure that whenever you're talking about what you did before, it makes sense that going to the master's program and studying business analytics will continue that trajectory that you had and the goals that you were trying to achieve by working or having that particular work experience at that point. So here I have an example for you. Agluhum is the name of a startup. So my student, she was saying that her job was to use Google AdWords, and that to use this information to suggest topics for some blog post. Now, this is what she had to do. Afterwards, she comments specifically about her startup experience and kind of how she saw an opportunity for improvement. And then she says later on how working with the university, studying at the university, will give her the tools that she needs in order to give the startup where she used to work for the value and that they want, and be able to actually provide them a solution for their current problem of having a one-size-fits-all strategy. So she's directly relating her actual experience working at iGluHum to something that she can actually do by studying and doing the master's program. So I hope they were really useful, and I will always be here for you at the end. All right? Thank you, and you have a great day.